You are listening to Three Kitchens Podcast, a member of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. We release a new episode every Tuesday. Come join us for a new recipe and a good story.
In Alberta, you get to choose who to buy your internet, electricity, and natural gas from. Park Power has low overhead, which in turn allows them to offer low competitive rates.
Reach out for a no-obligation comparison by emailing estimates at parkpower.ca. If you decide to switch, it's easy.
It's really just a change to your billing, and you can feel good knowing you are helping to give back to our communities with your utility bills. Learn more at parkpower.ca. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Three Kitchens Podcast. I am your host, Erin Walker, and I am joined with the lovely Heather and Sarah this morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Hi. Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good.
Well, you know.
It's not Tuesday, is it?
No.
So it's great.
We don't even know what day of the
It's
week
fantastic. As long as
If
it's
it
not
was Tuesday, I could have just lied to you, couldn't have I?
Yeah.
It's actually Wednesday, so it's not that far off. And
No.
It has been a crazy busy week and will continue to be.
The season
But-
just gets more exciting, doesn't it?
We're all planning our vacations and
Yeah.
time away, and the lovely part about vacations is you work really hard before it and you work really hard after it
Yeah, to get things
Right.
ready.
to get things
Yep.
ready. Mm-hmm.
That's right. Although, you know what? I just did like the quickest shopping list from camping and like pack stuff. I'm not going to worry about it. If we forgot something, we forgot it. Whatever.
Right.
There you go.
I'm not stressing about it this time. Sometimes I put a lot of effort into it.
Mm-hmm.
Not this week.
I feel like I've gotten better at just going with it.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to go camping this weekend.
Hmm.
Oh,
I have done zero to prep for it.
Okay. Well,
So
I was
Heather.
I was gonna tell you guys a story that I read recently. I read it. I'm sure it's in many places, but I read it in the Smithsonian magazine. I just kind of came across it in their history section. Have you ever heard of the donut lassies of World War
No.
One? No. Okay.
I can't believe that this is what you're going to come in with.
Why?
Because I have been listening to all this stuff about code breakers in World War One.
Are you
and
listening
two,
to?
broadly underestimated?
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of those stories already because I listen to all kinds of those history spy.
See,
podcasts,
and I'm
but-
getting my first go at it, and I'm so enjoying it right now.
So anyway, these were World War One when the Americans joined in 1917. Some women from the Salvation Army volunteered to go over. So they were going near the front lines, actually quite close, but not right at the trenches, but near the front lines to support the troops, like conducting church services, playing
Right.
music, serving up hot chocolate, kind of just any way of supporting the troops and bringing like a little taste of home to them at the war in France. So they went to France, these women, 4 women who went.
Mm-hmm.
So these couple of women, Margaret Sheldon and Helen Purviance, I believe their names were, they decided that in addition to the fudge and hot chocolate, maybe they could make donuts for the soldiers there.
Mhm.
So they collected excess rations for the dough, and they'd find an empty wine bottle and whatever they could, and they made a little dough and they rolled it out and they cut using like an empty tin can,
Right.
Yeah.
cut circles, made donut shapes.
Oh, cool.
And then they used a soldier's metal helmet, and put lard in it and fried
No way.
donuts in a helmet.
Cute.
Wow, that is industrious.
Yes, I know. I thought it was it's so funny that and apparently it was like a big hit. And so they were called the Donut Lassies because these ladies brought,
Dough fried in lard is always going to be a hit.
well, yeah. And it's not something they
No,
typically
what a
enjoyed
treat.
there, right? Yeah. So that it was just kind of a fun little story. Not fun to be in the war, but fun that these women could bring
Find
this
a way.
extra special. But I did think, okay, you're frying this in a helmet. Did the guy have to wear his helmet again later? And what was in the helmet?
I'm sure they washed it out. Let's go with that.
I mean, maybe there was some, the sad story is there's probably extra helmets from Casualties.
Oh, Erin.
Am I not supposed to bring this up?
No,
It was someone in particular. I read his name. It was his helmet that he volunteered his helmet to Friday. Can you imagine that greasy helmet, putting it back on later?
Hey, I'm pretty sure it smelled better than whatever that was going on around him.
I suppose.
Why? How did we change such a happy
story?
story?
We took this down a dark road, but let's.
Well, it was immediately where my mind went when I heard they used a helmet. At first, I was like, "Oh, that's so awesome! They must have had a pot, to fry the donuts in." And no, it was a helmet. I was like, "What?"
I think that's so cool that it was a helmet.
Oh.
I love that they went over there and helped out like that. I think
that is so cool. Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how sometimes like little things like that are what makes such a big difference just for individuals, right? You can't fight the war and you can't save the people, but at least making it a little bit better while you're there.
You can make donuts.
Well, at the time, women were not in combat in World War I, right? So
that's right.
They had to find other ways to contribute. Yeah, there you go. Little donut story for you. I think it was like National Donut Day recently.
I believe it was. I recently saw a donut that as soon as I came across it, I was like, I have to have this donut.
Who actually makes these days? Like, who is there like an organization where people sit around it? I mean, should we be part of this?
Yeah,
I think
just making days into representing food.
Today's International Erin Day. So if you know an Erin, bake her a donut.
Hi, Erin.
Specifically the maple bacon ones that I saw online.
Maple bacon, guys.
I saw that you wanted to borrow my donut pan. You can, absolutely. Anytime, as long as you pay me with a donut.
Yes.
And Sarah, on her behalf, I will just request.
Of course. So I told you guys what I was going to do for today's episode, right? We had already talked and discussed who was going to do what episode, and we kind of planned things out a few weeks ahead, and, we're trying to get on top of this whole organization bit again, right? Because it's almost summer. Mm-hmm. We want to bust it out now so that we can sit back and put our feet in the kiddie pool and sip on our drinks, right?
Yeah.
So I was all prepared to go with one recipe when I turned on a podcast last night while I was cooking dinner. I'm changing it up. I flipped the table. I heard this woman talk about this recipe and I was like, I will push my next one so that I have more time to do it. And I am doing a recipe that I heard about on the podcast I heard this on is called The One Recipe with Jesse Sparks. Okay. And he interviews famous chefs and people with the one recipe that they know they can make that is delicious, that everyone's going to love. It's their fail-safe. It's their favorite. It's their one recipe. Mm-hmm. So on the episode that I listened to, he interviewed Adrienne Cheatham, and she shared a recipe that she put in her cookbook that she just released this year. It's called Sweet Potato Gnocchi with Bacon-Miso Sauce.
Oh,
is that what you're making?
I am making this, ladies.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Okay, so I heard this last night, and I have been craving a gnocchi for a really long time. I've been skipping past, I make a basic potato gnocchi at home. I've made it a few times.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I've been thinking lately, I really want a gnocchi. I don't know what sauce to put with it. I was kind of bored of the ones I was doing, so I haven't put it on my recipe list, but it's been sitting in the back of my mind. Well, Adrienne is getting me to do this. She is.
She convinced you.
She convinced me after talking through this delicious sounding recipe. I mean, sweet potatoes in a gnocchi just sounds instantly delicious. And then a bacon-miso sauce.
Yeah, that sounds good.
No question about it. So this is in her recipe book that she just put out, a cookbook called Sunday Best, Cooking Up the Weekend Spirit Every Day. And this sounds absolutely incredible.
This sounds like a great cookbook to have over the summer because...
Well, yeah.
Did she publish the recipe outside of the book?
Yes. So she's got the recipe on the Splendid Table. And so I'll be following the recipe there. Okay. It's got ricotta cheese, sweet potatoes, egg, Parmesan, salt, flour. Then you're going to make this bacon-miso sauce. Okay. So the sauce has bacon, shallots, garlic, salt and pepper, miso paste, white wine. You can use dashi in it, which I think is a Japanese broth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds very similar to the ramen broth with the kombu and she was talking
Kombu.
about something else.
Anchovy or the fermented fish.
Yeah,
Bonito?
that's it.
Yeah.
That was it. I may or may not make the dashi. I might just, she said you could also use a chicken broth.
Okay.
I heard this and I had to make it. I don't even know what else to say.
It spoke to you.
It spoke to you.
Spoke to your
It
stomach.
called to you. It
Yeah.
screamed to her because it changed her menu for her recipe for this episode.
I'm doing a last minute flip. I don't really have much to say other than I think that this sounds delicious because the taste of miso and the bacon with it. Oh, I don't know. And the sweetness of the sweet potato, I think it's going to be really good.
What is her style of cooking?
Oh,
what is her what's the cuisine?
Okay, so the cookbook thing that I'm reading says Sunday Best is a warm and approachable guide to Southern flavors and a surefire way to incorporate a bit of fine dining sparkle into your weeknight routine.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah.
Since you're talking about gnocchi, I've never made gnocchi. Is that something you have to roll out individually, or do you make like a log and then cut it into little?
So you make a dough. It's going to be kind of similar to this lefse dough that I just made because, however, it's going to be with sweet potato. So I've never done it with sweet potato before.
Right.
When I do it myself with just a regular potato, I'm boiling the potatoes for not too long so that they don't get too soggy because you don't want it to be too wet. When she spoke about this recipe, she recommended microwaving the sweet potatoes because then
you're not adding moisture to it.
Maybe I'll bake them instead because I don't have a microwave. So I'm going to find a way to cook the sweet potato. You rice it, you add, I generally make it with like flour and egg. You knead it into a dough. It's kind of sticky, but not terrible. You roll out these
like ropes.
I was going to say snakes.
Okay.
So thank you for giving me a better snakes. You roll out the snake. Can you tell I cook with my kids? You slice it into pieces. I'm usually pretty lazy when it comes to this. I just slice it into pieces, pop it on a pan and freeze it, and then use it as needed.
Why is that lazy? I don't understand.
You can take each piece and just rub it on a fork, and it will make that gnocchi shape that you get in the restaurant.
That's what I've
got
seen.
The ridges in it. So maybe I'll up my gnocchi game and do the fork rub and give you guys some texture to go with your gnocchi. Because, then those little pockets will hold the sauce.
The sauce sticks more, right?
Yeah. It's all about creating that texture so your sauce kind of incorporates into it and picks up more with you. And yeah, so I've done gnocchis before. I kind of know the process. I've made it with beets in it before. So
silence on my end.
Thank your lucky stars, Sarah. I'm not putting beets in this.
I'm sure it was pretty.
It was like bright pink. It was very cool. But this, I don't know, Heather, you went and had those sweet potato pierogies at Queen's.
And then I made them at home. I made my own version because I love them so much.
Oh my gosh, like there's all these ideas that have been around me that I'm like, oh, yum, oh, delicious. And then when she spoke about this, I was like, this is the thing that combines all the things. So I got to do this.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. I heard this. I had to make it.
Yes, it sounds great. I'm excited. I'm happy.
Sounds delicious. I've been craving gnocchi too. I've made it before once or twice. Just very basic recipe. And I did the little fork.
Oh, did you?
It didn't take that long. It wasn't like that much of an extra step.
But it is an extra step.
Yeah, I don't think it makes a difference to the taste. Like the way the sauce will make, like I think it'll be fine with or without.
Yeah.
Yum.
Miso and bacon. I'm really excited about that because I take it even with that sauce, you can just put that on any pasta.
Oh, I'll bet.
Yum.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, or you could make those pierogies with the sweet potato in them and put the sauce on the top.
Oh, yeah.
if you have time for pierogies. Gnocchis are faster than pierogies, I
I'll
think.
be making the gnocchis. You can go ahead and help yourself to the pierogi side of this.
Maybe, well, I'm sure I'll make them at some point. I've made
I'm
them
sure
a
you'll
few
make them
times.
again, and maybe this will be a different sauce to add into it. So
Yeah, totally.
yeah, I'm just excited about all these flavors. I just had to jump on this.
Totally. I'm glad you did that.
Impulsive cooking decisions brought to you by Erin this week.
This episode of Three Kitchens is brought to you by Alberta Blue Cross. Alberta Blue Cross understands that running a small business is tough, and they understand business owners in Alberta are busy.
Let Alberta Blue Cross give you peace of mind with a group benefit plan. They offer health, dental, life, and disability coverage for your employees.
Alberta Blue Cross group benefit plans are easy to manage, anywhere, anytime, and on any device, making it easy for you and your employees to access. To learn more and explore your options, head to ab.bluecross.ca.
Welcome back to gnocchi and miso sauce, bacon-miso sauce.
Bacon-miso yum sauce.
It has filled our tummies and expanded our waistlines.
Yep.
And is everyone feeling the carb bloat right now?
I got my loose pants on and stretchy pants. And
I just kept eating it no matter how full I was.
Yeah.
There was still some left in the pan, and I was like just about sick full. And I was like, oh, this can't go to waste. Oh my gosh. I had no self-control when it came to this.
Me too. Let's hear how you made it.
Yes.
This was a winner. All right. So the sweet potatoes, I chose to bake so that they wouldn't be too moist because you don't want your gnocchi dough being really moist. I found that the sweet potatoes were still extremely juicy and moist even after baking them. So after they cooled a little bit and I peeled off the skin and riced them, there was so much moisture in them. So I took the cheesecloth that I have and just tied them up and let them drain for about half an hour until a whole bunch of that moisture came out. And I was just kind of like rubbing the cheesecloth bag to get as much moisture out as possible to speed up the process. Because I was like, this wasn't a step I planned on. I have to get this done by a
So that was
certain
that
time.
much moisture that it was dripping out then?
Yeah, I had never baked sweet potatoes whole, but I got 4 pounds of sweet potatoes, all about the same size, stabbed them with fork, put them on a baking sheet, and then I baked them at 425 for about 30 to 40 minutes, I want to say.
Uncovered.
Yeah, just completely on their own, just in the oven. Somewhat similar to how Heather baked the pumpkin.
Right.
Pumpkin.
I was just going to say, how are you saying pumpkin now?
Pumpkin. It's just it's a wee little pumpkin.
It's a pumpkin.
Oh, pumpkin.
Well, Sarah calls us dumplings. You can call us
there we go.
pumpkin.
There we go. I feel very pumpkin shaped after this.
Yeah.
So back on track. Yeah, like as I was ricing them, it was like first I would squeeze out all the moisture and then they would rice through. Like they were extremely wet and soft, but that's okay. Cheesecloth to the rescue. Tied it up,
and you had a troubleshoot for that, so no.
Yeah, so easy peasy. If your potatoes or your sweet potatoes or whatever you're using is too moist, line a bowl with cheesecloth, pour everything in the bowl, tie up a bag with your cheesecloth, and then just hang it up until it drips out to the desired amount of moisture. I also had to do a cheesecloth hanging bag for my ricotta cheese because she also recommended just putting it in a colander over the sink. But I thought, well, I already got my cheesecloth out, so I had 2 little bags, one with sweet potato and one with ricotta, and it just to drain out the moisture and make things drier.
I completely forgot about the ricotta.
Yeah, me too. I was just going to quickly ask, does it ever say to what dryness level or...
How do you know when it's...
How do you know?
So in her recommendation, she says, let it sit for 2 hours to remove excess liquid.
Okay, so she gives
a
time.
If you don't have time to drain, no worries. You're just going to need to use extra flour. So I would say that draining things, even if you do it quickly, just to get out excess moisture, you're good. Because then you don't have to over add your flour. You don't have to over knead your dough. right? Like to absorb all that
Right.
moisture. It's not as sticky when you go to use it. Although this
Right.
was really sticky, and like draining it definitely was worth every second
Okay.
because this still took a lot of flour. Anyway, I've got my riced sweet potatoes. I've got my drained ricotta cheese. I have an egg, Parmesan cheese, salt, and I'm mixing that all together.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm adding flour to that a cup at a time until it comes together and becomes a dough.
Okay.
This was a pretty sticky dough. It was a bit of a challenge to work with because sweet potatoes are sort of a sticky, they have a sticky consistency more so than a regular potato. So when I've made this with potatoes in the past, the dough hasn't been as tacky, whereas this dough, it took a little bit longer and a lot more work to kind of knead that flour in.
Okay.
But it worked. I also doubled the recipe because I made so much. I made a big serving for you guys. I made it for dinner for our family. So instead of doing this with 2 pounds of sweet potatoes, I had 4 pounds of sweet potatoes. I had this massive hunk of dough that I was kneading, and I hope it comes through on the videos because it was a massive beast of dough.
Now, can you put this into your mixer?
Now that's one thing I wondered about. I wondered if making this in my standing mixer would have been a good solution. I thought about that as I was doing this. I think if you wanted to do this with a dough hook, I think that would be a good way to do it. For sure. That's a good recommendation.
Erin never goes straight to the appliance.
I'm not recommending it. I just, when I ask questions like this, it's obvious I'm going to make it soon because of this. Oh God. Okay.
No, I think it's a totally viable dough to put into your mixer. I would just use your dough hook.
Yeah.
Not the mixing. Well, you could use the mixing paddle maybe for the first bit and then pop your dough hook in once you start adding flour.
Okay.
And I think it would be beneficial just to knead in that last bit of flour at the end, just to get that right consistency, because the way that she described it, which I thought was really good, the dough should be soft but not sticky.
Okay.
So I thought that was really, so every time I got like the flour kneaded in, I would then like do like the slap on the dough, and I'd be like, oh, I'm still sticking to it. And then just a bit more and a bit more. She's got weights for the flour, but then it says plus up to as much as needed. Just go a quarter cup at a time, because everyone's eggs are different sizes and how long you let your potatoes drain for and your ricotta and like all those things we just talked about.
Yeah.
Right.
Depending on moisture level, it could take more flour.
Right.
And so once you've got your dough made, you slice it into, it says divide it into 8 pieces, and just take one piece at a time and roll it out into a rope that's about a 1/2 inch thick. So it's a pretty thin rope. And then you just want to cut little 1/2 inch pieces off your rope, and those are your gnocchis. I did try the fork rolling method. I found that kind of challenging to do.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie.
Maybe because it was stickier?
I think because the dough in general was stickier.
Yeah.
So I did do the fork method where you press the gnocchis on the fork and it rolls and it makes the
pretty shape.
So for all of my pictures and videos, you will see the nice looking gnocchi. What you guys ate and what we ate was not the nice looking. Was my, I don't have time for this. Chop, 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 chop.
Yeah.
That's
so
fine.
once I chopped it all up, I popped it onto baking sheets that had parchment on them, and then just layered them up into my freezer, stacked them, let them freeze. It took about, I had 5 trays of gnocchis that I made. So it took about 4 hours for everything to freeze solid, because it was a lot for my little old freezer to do. And then once that was done, I just portioned it into the Ziploc bags. I sprinkle a little bit of flour in when I do this step, just because a little extra flour doesn't hurt and it'll prevent those gnocchis from sticking.
Very smart.
Once they're in the bag.
Okay.
So just a little, I don't know, maybe about a tablespoon went into each bag, and then I shake it around really good, and then into the freezer, and we're good to go.
Smart. Okay.
Easy peasy. And then the best part of this is you take it right from the freezer and you pop it into your boiling water. So get your water boiling, salt it generously, grab your serving out of the freezer, pop it in. I would say it took maybe 3 to 5 minutes to cook. And once they pop up onto the top and they're floating at the surface, she says count to 30 or something, or she says let them continue cooking for another 10 seconds, and then you just take them out with a slotted spoon and you toss them into a frying pan that you've got some oil heated in, and you just fry them up in there. And then you add the best part.
The best sauce, listeners. The best. Like going on everything. Let's talk about the sauce.
So I think we all agree the gnocchis were a winner.
They were.
So good.
The texture was exactly what I love in a gnocchi. It didn't get too soft. It didn't get too... I was really, really happy. I've had gnocchis fall apart before on me, where like you put them in the boiling water and then they just turn in. It's like
a little bit mushy. Yeah.
Okay.
I've had fail gnocchis, and so I was really happy that these didn't. And I was really happy with
yummy. So yummy, and not too sweet, not too like it had everything. It was just perfect.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It satisfied my gnocchi texture craving.
Yeah, and easy to make on our end. After Erin put in all that effort, she drops off a bag of frozen gnocchi, and all we had to do was have a pot of boiling water going and a nice hot saute pan. That's it. That's all we
warm
did.
Up the sauce, and away you go.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things that I would say it's way easier to make than a dumpling. You just make it, you freeze it, and then you have dinner or whatever. Even if you're going to serve this to people, like you could serve this a few plates at a time while you boil it up and serve it out. And how awesome do you look?
Totally.
Here's your miso bacon gnocchis. Like, boom.
We talked about for decades after this one being served to guests. Absolutely.
Okay, the Bacon-Miso Sauce was really easy to make. So this was one of the she worked at a restaurant called Le Bernardin. It's a pretty famous restaurant that I've heard about in New York. She developed this. This was one of her first components that she developed to her own recipe when she was working there. So I thought that was really cool, and I think it's a really great combination of a bunch of flavors that have that unbelievable umami taste.
Oh, yeah. What's her name?
Her name, was Adrian Cheatham.
Well, Adrian, my new hero. You and Erin.
We're going to be best friends now.
I'm sure she's listening.
So. Yeah, she's on our best friend list now. So 4 slices of bacon that are just cut into pieces. You fry that up in a pan, and then you add onions, garlic, and salt and pepper. She says white pepper, but okay, black is fine.
Right.
Don't worry, I used white. Don't worry. Fry that up until everything kind of softens. You add in your miso paste. You cook it until it starts to brown a little bit. Then you add in your white wine, scrape up all the little browned bits on the bottom and deglaze your pan. And then you add 2 cups of broth.
Right.
And then bring it to a boil. Boil for a minute at high heat, reduce to a simmer, and then just let it reduce to about half.
Okay. So this is when you used your chicken stock instead of the dashi, the hondashi that she had spoken about, right?
That's right.
Okay.
No wonder it was so delicious. When I had it in front of me, I don't know if this is just speaking to the state of my brain these days, but I couldn't remember. I was like, and so my husband and I were splitting it up. I was making it for both of us for lunch. And he's like, oh, okay, so tell me what's in the sauce. And I was like, I don't remember a thing about it besides bacon. Like, I honestly was just a blank. I couldn't remember.
I know, it's
didn't
not
matter.
just you. But this one I remembered because it's got one of my favorite ingredients in it, miso. So it's stuck in my head.
But now I know why it was so good.
Yeah.
Because of all those things, the wine, the miso, the bacon, everything.
Yeah. Everything really plays off for it really good.
There was no butter in this, Erin?
Okay, so here's the thing. I didn't drain my butter after I cooked down the bacon, and it was pretty fatty. I was supposed to finish off this sauce with 4 tablespoons of butter. And there was just so much fat already in the sauce. I was like, I feel like if I put butter in this,
it'll be too much.
It'll just be too much. So I would say that last step would be as per your personal preference or as per the bacon you used or whatever. Because I definitely was like, I feel like Sarah's going to be sad that I didn't finish this with butter, but I don't think I can finish this with butter.
I wasn't.
And the other crucial thing that I also think is really important when you're making any pasta is to reserve your starchy cooking water.
Yes.
And so that also went in here. It was about 2 tablespoons of starchy cooking water that I put into that frying pan once I had moved my gnocchis into it. And that just helped them not stick to the bottom of the frying pan. And then the sauce went in. And then, so when I made your sauce batches up, I actually took a couple tablespoons of starchy cooking water and put it into your sauce.
Nice.
So that you had all of that glue for when you, so it would really thicken up once you heat it.
Thank you. You want to explain to the listeners what putting starchy water does?
It marries the pasta to the sauce.
Makes it stick, right?
It's the glue.
It's the glue, yeah.
And I think if you've ever left your cooking pot on the stove overnight because you didn't do the dishes,
you'll see the glue.
There's like a gluey film on top of your, and it's like, that's the stuff you want anytime you add sauce to pasta. Ups your pasta game. It makes it restaurant quality. It's mixes in your sauce smoother. It's, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's one thing. That's a Rachel Ray thing. I remember seeing on her show from years ago.
Now, is it review time?
Go.
Okay, so speaking of restaurant quality, so we have started making and I think this was the first thing I messaged to you, Erin, after I ate it, a menu plan for Erin's upcoming restaurants.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah.
I now have two. You
have two menu items. According to Sarah.
So there's the tenderloin that must go on it. And if you missed that, I don't think, do we remember what episode that was?
I don't know which number, but it was called A New Way to Rosé.
There, New Way to Rosé. Go check it out. That's one.
Yummy.
Don't steal the recipe, just make it. It's Erin's. And the second one is this. Oh my God. This whole family ate we should have dressed up a little nicer, I gotta tell you. It was, wow, savory. So delicious. And my daughter, she had finished everything and she was quite full. And because we had 2 dinners.
The rest of us.
Yeah.
We had 2 dinners. We had dinner before soccer, and then your gnocchi was after soccer. And she said, "Oh, I'm really full." And I said, "But eat the sauce. You can't let the sauce go." And she's like, "Oh, Mom, I'm so full." And I said, "But it's miso." She's like, "It is." And then it got licked clean because everybody loved it. It was
that's awesome.
Oh, everything. And I
this
don't
is
think
why I had to make it, because I heard her talk about this and it was like, this has to go in my belly.
Yeah. Not just with gnocchi, this can go on everything. This sauce can go on absolutely everything. It was delicious on that sweet potato gnocchi because it was that savory and sweet. Okay, I'll stop talking. Sorry, Heather. How are you doing?
No, that's okay.
She's just waking up again now from her second nap.
No, not quite. It's almost bedtime though.
It is.
I thought it was so delicious. I love gnocchi. Even the stuff you buy at the store, that's it's fresh, but even like that, I love it. But homemade, there's something about homemade gnocchi that is just I don't know. It's so decadent. It feels fancy, and this was extra. It was leveled
I love the
up.
color in it.
Up.
Yeah. And it was so rich, and with the sauce and everything, it was just I don't know, it was just fancy though. Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm classing us up, ladies.
The words you're saying.
And I ate half of that you gave. It doesn't look like a lot when you have it in a little Ziploc sandwich bag. It was and Erin had told me it's 2 meals, for 2 of you, or a taste for all 4 of you. And I was like, okay, so I'll make it for my husband and I for lunch.
Because Heather doesn't love her children.
Well, I have really been falling down on having anything in the house.
I thought she was going to say, I've been really falling down on loving my children.
Maybe that too. I don't know.
Summer is approaching and I'm
It's
just not
June.
ready for it.
Yeah. But that was a large serving
Oh, yeah.
of
Yes, it was
gnocchi.
filling.
And it's so filling, but I'm like you, Erin, I couldn't stop. I was just like, and even Todd was even like, wow, this is quite, are you eating all of that? Because this is quite a lot. Like, even for me, this is quite a lot. And I'm like, I can't stop. I won't stop.
And that this
No.
was the problem, right? So I never have had gnocchi before.
Oh,
Never. So first gnocchi is from you, Erin, and it was sweet potato gnocchi, and it was absolutely delicious.
lucky.
I like
Oh,
to
you'll
think
never
that
do the store-bought.
you'll never
No
buy store-bought
shit.
again.
Like, I think it might have spoiled me.
Yeah,
Now
for
I
sure.
just
Oh,
can't.
I've bumped you up a bracket, Sarah. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
boy.
I think so. Okay, that was
thank you
delicious.
for letting me have my impulsive cooking.
Oh,
That's
This
what it's
was-
all about.
Sometimes when you hear something, you just gotta jump on it. And this was one of those moments where I was like, I don't care. I'm making this.
Inspiration.
I have to do this. I think everyone should check out Adrienne Cheatham and her new cookbook, Sunday Best.
And now everyone who's listened to this will go away and say, I want to make sweet potato ricotta gnocchi with miso bacon sauce.
And Erin had some great tips about
so
making
fancy.
it. And I love that this is freezable. Fantastic. Open that restaurant.
And the sauce really took nothing to make. So even if you want to make the sauce fresh, you have dinner in maybe 30 minutes.
And even if you don't want to make the gnocchi, you can make that sauce for any pasta.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
But you want to make this gnocchi.
Yeah,
You do.
You do. You really do. I do.
I do too.
And now for the fine print. Remember, when you like, subscribe, review, or share this podcast, it helps more people find us. Thank you so much for listening.
This gnocchi was okie dokie.
Can you say it a little more excited than that?
No.